Hello, my name is Pin Shi. People call me Dr. Pin. I was born in Sichuan province, China, in 1963. And I grew up during China's Cultural Revolution, which is from 1966 to 1976. So when it started, all of my older siblings were Red Guards. They are like 7, 8, 9 years older than I am. So they were in uh, elementary school and middle school at that time. But uh, when my dad was imprisoned due to the purge, my dad was a party official at that time. So, and we are our whole family were kicked out our apartment and moved into a mud house in the countryside. And of course, uh, all of my brothers, sisters were disqualified as a Red Guard. And but after 2 years, my dad was reinstalled, and so we moved back to our to another apartment. And in 1970, I started my first grade. And at that time, everything has changed. I mean, all we have, I mean, we have the new textbooks and everything is new. And we also have police officers who told us to raise our class conscious. That means now we are going to look at each other, our classmates, our teachers, through the lens of class struggle. And so if my classmates or descendants, children or grandchildren of the so-called Black people, that means they were former landlord or business owners. So anything who had something. So, and we are told really to look at them as our class enemies unless they change, unless they confess and, betray their own class. So it's a whole thing about the bourgeois and the proletarian, the property owners versus people who are workers. So we are told actually to criticize our teachers and even our parents. At that time, most teachers were educated before the Communist Party took power. So they belong to that so-called bourgeois class. There are actually there are 5 categories of people are considered bad. They're called black people. So it's called like the term for that is the 5 black categories. So of course, most teachers were they came from that the so-called oppressor class. And so they were actually very scared of us. Everything they said or everything they did can be used against them. So that's how the environment I grew up. And every day we start our class by worshiping Mao, by saying, long live Chairman Mao, long live the party. It's kind of like here, people here, students will pledge their allegiance to the flag, and we basically pledge our allegiance to Chairman Mao. And so he was kind of like our God. And not much learning at that time. And everything is political. So we can have the right, we call the big letter post, and to criticize our teachers and even our parents and our classmates. So everything is about class struggle. And they will also spend time working in factories and or helping harvesting in the countryside. And when you graduate from high school, you have to go to the countryside just to quote unquote be re-educated by the parents. Of course, there's no education. It's just basically doing all the hard labor. So it's a way to, and actually it's one of the ways for the government to solve unemployment problem in the cities. They just send all the youth to the countryside. I came to the US in 1995 to work as an engineer. And before that, I did my graduate studies in Canada and worked for a year there. So I'm kind of where socialism, Canada actually was a much better country compared with China or any other countries. But at that time, at least, is very socialistic. And we only had one telephone company, one car insurance company, and one power company. And all those companies actually were owned by the province. So it's kind of like a state-owned enterprises. So there's not much choice you have. And even though we got medical insurance supposed to be free, but there's a lot of services you just cannot get. And you also have to go to the, for example, when my wife was pregnant, as soon as we knew she's pregnant, we just get onto a waiting list so that when her time to give birth, she can go to a better hospital. So I definitely know what is socialism, what's life to live under a socialist country, even if it's a relatively actually good country, a rich country like Canada. When I came to the United States, there's a couple of cultural shocks I have. One is that actually I came to Indiana, so Midwest. So one thing is that people here in the Midwest love President Reagan. That was totally kind of surprise to me because, I mean, in Canada, all you hear is bad things about Reagan because, because that's actually from the American medias, you know, the NBC, ABC, and CBS. So of course I thought, okay, most Americans don't like Reagan, but so I was shocked to see actually there are actually a lot of people like Reagan. And another shock is that there are so many churches in Indianapolis or Indiana, and so that's because living in Vancouver, you don't see that. I mean, you thought that Christianity is kind of the past. It's kind of just the the residues of the evolution of the Western culture. So I kind of realized, okay, the media actually lied to me. I mean, it's not just bias. It's really they knew the truth, but they distorted it, and they actually lied to me. So that's how I can change from a liberal into a conservative. What I like about America is that, first of all, you had freedom from government control. I mean, you can live your life without worry about interference from government. And secondly is that you have a lot of opportunities as long as you work hard uh, of course, you have to be smart too. But as long as you put in the work, you can have a decent middle class lifestyle. And sometimes Americans take it for granted, but in many other countries, that's not the case. I mean, no matter how hard you work, you just kind of stuck in socio-economical class, and very hard for you to move up. So I have lived in America since 1995. So both my kids, I mean, my son was born in Canada, but my daughter was born in America, and they really have totally different medical care. My daughter was way better. The hospital and the doctors and the whole service way better than what we got in Canada. And this is a lot of people don't realize that when you're talking about free Medicare, you really have to look into what's the quality of a service, not just because it's free. I mean, you could have free stuff, but the quality could be pretty bad. Just like, you know, you buy cheap stuff, you suffer the quality. And so this is the American youth, especially needs to realize that. Yeah, don't, you know, buy the lies from some people to say, okay, you can get free stuff and you get, well, they didn't actually tell you that you have the same quality. It's just assumed. And so they knew what they were talking about, but they basically misled American people, especially the youth. My concern right now is the communism. I never imagined that I have to worry about it, about communism in America, especially in a conservative state and in a conservative county. But that's what we have. The neo-communism has taken over many American institutions, particularly the higher education, the colleges, universities, news media, and also the entertainment industry. And critical race theory is not just a academic theory. It's a ideology. It's a Marxism in a different package. So instead of class struggle, they substitute with racial struggle or race struggle. And so instead of class consciousness, you are having the race consciousness, you know, the woke culture. All of a sudden you realize that, oh, the reason people are in a bad situation is because they are oppressors. They took advantage of you. So, I mean, even though they couldn't give any good evidence for that. I mean, it's just like that people say, okay, if you are white, you are part of the oppressor class. If you are people of color, you are the oppressed. Then what about the Asians? What about the Chinese Americans or Indian Americans and many other? I mean, even people from Africa, they are doing pretty well in America. So that can destroy the narrative. So therefore, actually, for us Asians, they don't consider us as people of color. I mean, we are kind of, you know, lumped up with the white people. So that's, I mean, that's what they do. I mean, this is just Marxism. It's just between one group people against another group people. And it is, in Marxism, is between the so-called property owners versus the people who had nothing, who worked for a wage. And now it just become like the white people or people like white versus the Black people and the Hispanic people or other people of color. So if you are in a bad situation, it's all because those bad people, the white people who actually exploit you. This is really at the core is Marxism, and now we see that in the past 2 years, especially in the Middle West, the push of that kind of ideology. It's not taught as a subject, but as ideology is permeated in every subject. That's how they look at the world. And even if you look at math textbook, it's all about those inequality, about the white people against the Black people, and how America was built on slavery, even though it's not the case. But they don't care about truth, because they said that they don't even believe any object truth. It's always their truth against your truth, and so they believe their truth will trump your truth. So there's no debate going on there. But because they control the higher education, they control they control our K through 12 education, not just public education. There's a lot of private schools actually. The administrators and teachers, especially administrators, are pushing this ideology, and that is going. If we don't stop it, that's going to destroy America's education, and they're going to indoctrinate the kids and turn them into red gods. So red gods back in the China's Cultural Revolution, they were middle school students, high school student, college student, and some as young as like fourth graders and fifth graders. And they were used by Mao to turn the country upside down, so that Mao can obtain the absolute power. And this is the same thing going on. They are going to use our kids, turn them into, they call social activists, and they use them to destroy America as we know it. Because they actually made it clear, they are anti-capitalism, they are anti-Western culture, they are anti-Christianity. So if we let them have their way, our country will be destroyed. So as someone who grew up in China and have seen the destruction of communism, and first of all, I have to warn the American people, and second of all, to actually join the fight. So I'll be running for school board in my local school district, because we have to do something. We have to, first of all, we have to take over school boards. And so that is kind of like we have to stop bleeding. So to protect our children first, and then we go from there. Then we're going to figure out how do we actually educate our children so that they have a future, so that our country as a republic will still survive, and not only survive, and will thrive, so that our kids have a better future than we have. So I thank you for the opportunity actually to be able to share my thoughts, and if you want to know more, I definitely would like to talk to you, either one-on-one or whatever the form. And I'm planning to write a book about the danger of communism, and also another book is about the way I look at education. We need to change our education system. This is actually before all those CRT things or SEL things started. Our education has been going downhill since the 60s, and we need to turn it around and so that our kids can get uh, the education that they need and they deserve. So I definitely encourage all the parents and grandparents actually to just to join the fight, because we cannot rely on the politicians. I mean, they just really care about their political power. But as parents or grandparents, we don't care about that. We care about our own children or grandchildren, and we want to make sure that they have a better future than what we are having right now. Thank you very much.